And we're back with our third video with the Order Malta Bray guys. I've Glenn, Josh and Catherine with us again. And really interesting video series so far, and it's something that we hope young people have learned some new skills out of, and will help you to look after each other when you're out and about if an accident does happen. This one, guys, is 3 separate issues I have written down here for video 3, and the first one I have, I'll go to then, is seizures. So if a person suffers a seizure, whether from drug use or from epilepsy or things like that, what can you do for them and how can you keep them safe? You've called an ambulance and this seizure is still going on, which can be quite a frightening experience if you've never witnessed anything like that before, I would imagine.
Certainly, yeah.
So what can you do to keep them safe until the ambulance arrives?
The very first thing is just keeping them from harm. If they're having a seizure on the ground, whether it's carpet, grass, hard ground, they're going to be just tense, they're going to be shaking, and their head's going to be hitting off the ground. So the first thing that anyone should do is protect the head. So all we do there is just going to cup the head, put hand either side to stop it from bouncing off the ground, put a blanket under, just anything like that. And after that, we just sit and wait really. We can sit, we can time the seizure, just so we can try and let the ambulance crew know. It's just wait, that's until the seizure stops really.
You kind of have to let the seizure kind of run its course or take its course?
Yeah, that's it. And once it's finished, you can put them in a recovery position afterwards.
And is it safe to move a person away from a wall or something that's having a seizure? Is it like, even though they're shaking in seizure, can you move them? Is it safe to pull them back to the middle of a room or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't be too much move them, but like if they're next to a wall or something like that where they're going to hurt themselves off, then absolutely move them away from it.
And then the seizure ends, recovery position is, say we cover it on Monday's video, should you give them anything to eat or drink, or should you just not?
No, absolutely not. Like people that have epilepsy, they might have regular seizures, so they might not need an ambulance if this is just like a reoccurrence thing. But just see how they are after the ambulance. I would call one anyway, just to be on the safe side. If it's the first time seizure or if there's a different reason why this seizure has happened, and just keep them in the recovery position until the ambulance arrives, even if they regain consciousness.
And again, I think it's fair to say it's important to give the ambulance crew as much information as you have. So if there is an issue of intake of drugs, it's better that the ambulance crew know that rather than not know that, I would guess.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because for us, before we go out for a patient that's had a seizure, we need to kind of get to the bottom why. And if we can't do it, the hospital needs to do it then as well. So like drug intake or drug withdrawal, there can be 2 triggers for a seizure.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of get that on board beforehand, just so we know, well, this good chance this was the cause of the seizure today, but they still need to be investigated further in the hospital.
Absolutely. And and it's not, is it fair to say, it's not the ambulance crew's job to tell the guards that young people are taking drugs or anything like that. So
no,
it's, there's no risk to a young person getting in trouble for telling the truth of what's being taken or how the seizure may or may not occur.
No, it's nothing to do with the Gardaí at all. If you tell a paramedic crew anything in privacy, it stays with that group and they'll only relay it to the hospital staff for the patient care. It's nothing to do with the Gardaí whatsoever, unless there was instances of violence, things like that. But drug use, no. Yeah,
absolutely. Important information to know there as well, that it's important to give the right information, all the information you have, to the ambulance crew so they can provide the best service as well to young people and old people in situations like this. Josh, second one I have on the list is vomiting. Not a very pleasant thing to witness, I would imagine, as an ambulance crew member. How can you help a person that is vomiting from drug or alcohol intake? What can you do?
I suppose, as we said earlier, if they're on the ground, you want to put them into the recovery position immediately. As if they're on the ground, they're obviously too weak themselves to sit up or anything. So we want to just put them on their side. It doesn't have to look amazing, it doesn't have to be picture worthy, but just put them on their side so that the vomit will, by gravity, just fall out of their mouth. And if they're lying on their back, they risk swallowing it again as they take a breath in, and that can immediately turn into choking and much more serious than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So just turn them quickly onto their side, or if they're sitting up, just assist them to lean forward.
Yeah, and I think we heard a horror story a couple of years ago from an ambulance crew member that somebody drank too much and they fell asleep. They're at a goalpost and they were supported like that, but their head was like that and the whole airway was blocked, and the person ended up sadly passing away just because something simple at the airway wasn't open.
That's the thing, like you can't just leave someone up against a wall and presume they're alright, they'll vomit back up. You have to constantly watch them, making sure it is actually coming out, that it's not staying in the mouth or anything like that.
So it's vital that the airway is open and the person's on their side if they're on the floor. We often hear myths of if a person's drank too much and they're getting sick or semi-conscious, I just give them bread to soak up the alcohol, or just give them coffee to wake them up. Right or wrong?
No, don't give them anything, no.
Unfortunately, I suppose if it gets to that stage, it's coming up now anyway, so
Yeah.
just their safety is a priority. If you're going to call an ambulance, do it straight away, and don't give them anything to eat or drink, because the ambulance crew needs to take, you know, their vital signs and things like that, and we don't want to be affecting when they've lost aid or whatever.
Yeah.
And the important thing as well, to don't leave them alone. Somebody needs to stay with
Stay
that
with
person,
them all the time.
or you know, they go bring that person home if they're
Yeah.
able to go home, but
Yeah.
don't leave them alone.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially for young people or groups. Always make sure that nobody's left behind wherever you are, especially if you're outdoors. Make sure everyone's taken care of and looked after in your group. The last thing I have, guys, on this video is slings and triangular bandage are used to put on slings. Common in first aid kits as well. I think there's 2 ways to put on slings. Well, there was the last time I did a first aid kit and an arm sling anyway. There was an elevated sling, was it? And
Yes.
I can't remember.
Long arm.
Yeah, long arm. Can we demonstrate those? So slings would be, I would guess, if a person has obviously injured their arm. It's great if a triangular bandage is available. We can demonstrate that in a minute. If a triangular bandage isn't available, what would the advice be there for somebody who suffers an arm injury? Is it safe to use like a scarf or a towel or a jumper
Or a hoodie, you know, with the 2 arms up against.
Yeah.
Whatever you can, or alternatively, once they're in a semi-conscious state, they can just hold themselves.
Support themselves.
There's no need to be going too invasive with anything.
Or get a cushion or a pillow if it's as part of the arm
Yeah,
or the wrist
yeah.
to keep it up. Yeah.
So again, following on from yesterday's video, if there's a bleed on the arm, you look after the bleed first, and then
Yes.
after that you'll put the sling on. So you can check yesterday's video for how to stop and control bleeding, and once you've done that, can we just do a sling demonstration maybe?
Yeah.
So all really useful information here, I think, guys, and there's a lot of young people, and obviously summer is the time where there is a lot more socialising and going out, and all of these injuries don't have to be alcohol or drugs related. It's very easy if you're out just to fall and literally land on your arm, you cut your arm. So really useful information, I think, for you guys to have. And a couple more videos this week, and the last one we'll do, we would advise everybody to check out, which is about CPR, and if CPR is needed, you don't have to be an expert at it, but you could save someone's life by just having some very soft skills and some new skills. I'm going to jump in front of you again, Mark. Oh, I forgot your mask, sorry guys. And Josh is kindly going to look after me here with a sling. So,
so we talked about bleeding in yesterday's video, so we might do an elevated sling.
Yeah.
So for any injuries, you know, to the arm, maybe a fracture, they've fallen and hurt somewhere in the arm, we'd do a lower arm sling. But for the bleeding that we did yesterday, we want to keep that, you know, say if it's a cut to the hand, we want to keep it elevated to keep the blood flow down in the arm as opposed to keeping the arm down where the blood would spurt out. So we elevate it up, put it around the shoulder. When we get our triangular bandage out, we want to put the short corner to the elbow. So in both slings, that goes to the elbow. Then we take it and we tuck it underneath. So we've got half of the bandage or the sling now on top and half of it underneath. Can you just hold that for me there? And now what we do is once we get to the elbow, we twist it around, and that prevents the elbow falling any further down. Then we come around the back. Before we tie it, we get the person to take a deep breath in, because we don't want to tie it too tight so that they can't actually breathe. And then what we do is we tie the knot right up here in the shoulder, so that if we place them back against the seat of a car to go home or anything, that they're not actually lying against the knot, which can be very uncomfortable. So that's that tied up there. You can see it's quite supportive down here, and the elbow is the most important thing. And that we've still got access to have a look at the cut here if it's bleeding or anything. We don't want to, you know, hide what's bleeding, just so that we can constantly check it.
Really useful information. Thanks a million, Josh, for looking after me. Thanks to Glenn and Catherine as well. That is our third of 5 videos with the crew here at the Order of Malta and Bray, and thanks again to the guys for allowing us to use their great facility here, beside St. Peter's School. Really useful information there, guys, around seizures, around what to do if somebody is vomiting, getting sick, and how to look after somebody if they need an arm sling. So we'll be back again with tomorrow's video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something from it, and we will talk to you soon. Cheers.